Hello, everyone. It's Julia back again with another episode of the Ethical Consumer Podcast. And today I have with me not necessarily a food brand, but one could argue that you do end up ingesting part of his products. I'm here with Ecolips founder Steve Shriver. Thanks for being with me here today, Steve.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, most definitely. So you are another semi-local to me Iowa company. I'm in Cedar Falls, you're in Cedar Rapids, and a lot of people get the two confused.
Yeah, yeah, but good Midwestern towns.
I think so too. I think so too.
Yeah.
All right, Steve. So we are talking about lip balm today. And again, the lip balm is not necessarily a food like most other cosmetics. The skin is the largest organ, and lip balm applied directly to the lips, to the mouth. You do end up eating some of it, do you not?
Yeah, totally, totally. And we go through the same scrutiny with our ingredients that you have to go through with organic food. So we actually have the USDA audits our facility like they would a food facility.
Excellent. And I know some
Yeah,
cosmetics do not have that high of an inspection either, which is kind of sad because, again, skin is our largest organ. We're
right.
going to absorb everything we put on it. So, what is so special about your lip balm? I have one here.
Wow, what isn't?
Ooh.
Yeah. Um, Ecolips is, I mean, we've got about 30 different lip care products, but what we've really done is made organic products accessible. So specifically organic lip care that is certified organic, fair trade, non-GMO, made by a B corporation. Um, we've we offer it at a pretty value-oriented price. So this container of Mongo Kiss, which is one of our top sellers, um, is a 0.25 ounce stick, and you can get this for $2.50. Whereas a competing brand for all the same third-party seals would be $5 or $6 for the same size container. So we've always wanted to be as fairly priced as possible.
Which is excellent because I know, as you said, some other lip balm companies and cosmetics in general definitely hike the price tag up. And for something that
Hmm.
should not be considered a luxury, like a lotion or a lip balm or something that everybody needs to have access to, really, it's unfortunate when the higher quality products have a huge price tag on them. It makes
Hmm.
it not affordable to buy a good product.
Right. When we launched in 2003, our sole mission was, this is before organic was big. This is before, that there was organic products in every grocery store in the country. And we looked at our lip balm as a gateway organic product, and we were like, this little thing could be that could be the thing that somebody tries that is going to lead them into more organic produce, dairy, food, etc., clothing.
Sure.
And it
It's an
worked.
easy switch if it's in your pocket again. And, even if you were to go for the $4 or the $5 stick, something like that,
Mhm.
it's still an affordable, usable product that someone's going to use every day. And I think I notice the difference when I'm using good products, your products, as opposed to other ones. And I think other people do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when was the initial conception of this idea?
Oh, yeah. So back in the late 1900s, I I had a company called Raining Rose, and it's named after my two oldest daughters' middle names, Hadley Rose and Lindsay Rain, and we manufactured lip balm and other skincare products. And I had a sales rep. His name was Jim King, and he was our top sales guy. And he and we were making other people's products at that time. So it was all private label lip balm, basically going out to dental offices and other brands. And Jim called me one day and said, "What?" He's like, "We're building all these other people's brands, and we're spending so much time and energy building these other people's brands, and I don't really feel like any of them are doing it right." He said,
Mhm.
and I agreed with, and we're like, "Let's do it, and let's make it organic, and let's get it out there, and let's do it right." And
Sure.
so we started working on that plan in late 2001, 2002, and then in 2003, sold off Raining Rose, and we launched hard with Ecolips.
Okay, so you were already kind of in the balm and cosmetic industry, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
called white labeling. Is that correct? White labeling,
Yep.
where you make other people's products and they get to put their name on it, and you're like, I made it, but they get the
Right.
credit.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, and we wanted to be this example. We wanted to be the solar powered, wind powered, USDA, B Corp, all that stuff. And we couldn't be that it was challenging to really share our ethos with brands that were hiring us. It was more like we were becoming what they wanted us to become rather than the products becoming what we wanted it to become.
Sure. So you were, in a sense, kind of sacrificing your ethos while you were
Yeah,
fulfilling their businesses,
yeah.
which
Working
doesn't
with
feel
ingredients
good.
that no, and working with some ingredients that we didn't want to work with, and
Mm-hmm.
because we had bills to pay, and now we have control over it. We can decide what's good and bad, and what we want to share.
Oh, for sure. Well, and your name is going on it, so you deserve to be proud of the products that you're putting out, and you deserve to be able to do them in the way that you want to do them.
That's right.
So, what was your first line? What was your first product?
The first product, it was Ecolips. And I remember our sell sheet. We had two flavors of SPF 15 lip balm. It was mint and berry, and it was Ecolips lip friendly, price friendly. And so we were always just like, and we were selling them for $1 a piece because we're like, we're going to go after chapstick. We're just going to go hardcore after,
Man.
yeah. And yep. And we had a few different display options, and we got out there. I mean, but we wanted, after one of the things that Jim did, he flew to Iowa from California, and we literally, on his way and before he got here, we bought every single lip balm that we could find, and we laid it on this huge conference table in front of us, and we went through and we were like, okay, what's good about this? What's not good about this? What do we like? What don't we like? What are we hearing from consumers? And what we think that we started Ecolips with what we believe was the top flavor, top feel, top function. So mint and berry. And then every year we
Excellent.
added more products.
Sure. Well, and at this point now, guys, if you go to their website, you can see every single line they have, and it's really quite extensive. And I have had the SPF, the original SPF. I have right now with me the hemp with hemp oil in it, and this is the vanilla flavored one. I
Hmm.
cannot lay hands on, and it's upsetting to me because it's one of my favorites for running out the door and making myself look a little bit more awake and brighter is the tint. I
Yes.
love the tint. I have it in the red. So I've had a couple over the years. And one thing that I like about it is you don't usually have to order. You can order online, but your products are in so many stores, it really does make it super accessible. But you've never grown too big. You've always stayed in Iowa. And pardon me, is it Marion or is it Cedar Rapids that you're technically based in?
We're technically based in Marion for the last 2 years now.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. So, and you've never decided to move. You've always stayed in the Midwest. You've stayed local. So I know you're a local company. I can buy you local, and I like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
What is, this is a hard question, I'm sure. What is your go to? Is that Mongo that you have with you your standby, or do you have a favorite that you've created?
I do. The Mango Kiss Vanilla Honey is,
Mm,
I think it was like the culmination of 20 some years of experience that just came out in that product. Just
sure.
the form, feel, function, all that stuff. So that's my favorite go-to, but I really enjoy going into the product development room and seeing what they're working on, and just grabbing something new every day when I can.
Cool. Oh, that's going to
Hmm.
be awesome.
Hmm.
Excellent. Well, so like you said before, you were the first organic lip balm company, is that correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were the first company uh, to really market and sell organic lip balm at any scale.
Sure.
So there were definitely some mom and pa operations going to farmers market and making organic lip balm, but we were like the first ones that pitched and got into every retailer that we could.
Sure. Now, organic was originally that was the desire. That was the whole purpose
Mhm.
was to create a better product, a cleaner product, a greener product. With organic in mind, what were the next few steps that you took to essentially greenify your label, your products?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. We have always, it's always been a balance of finding, what we can, it's like, well, what we want to do is we want to offer a, refillable, reusable, biodegradable, organic lip balm. And we just haven't figured that out yet, but we're getting closer and closer every day. And so when we started, it's like, we're going to be all about the ingredients, and we are going to share our knowledge with everybody we can about, and again, use this product as a force for change. But as we could increase, at first it was just organic sunflower oil and organic beeswax that were our main drivers. And now we're sourcing ingredients from around the world and more fair trade ingredients. And we have experimented with other sustainable packaging measures, and we continue to do that. So we always would try to use, FSC certified or biodegradable paper or recycled content for any of the paper packaging. And then we get into our exterior, our building. We run on solar power, and when we don't hit, when we have to draw from the grid, we offset that with wind power, Iowa wind power credits that we purchase as well. So part of the B Corp certification is measuring all of these inputs and outputs and just really making sure that we are, always continuing to strive for something better when it comes to greenification.
Sure. Another guest that we've had on the podcast, Single Speed Brewing, they have solar as well. And the difficulty with solar in Iowa is that sometimes we don't have sunshiny days. Thankfully today we definitely do. But that's always kind of difficult. So that's awesome that you're able to offset. You said you have wind energy credits that you use.
Right.
So this is just something that you buy if you need it, essentially?
So we just budget every year. We budget a certain amount of money to go towards wind infrastructure building in the state of Iowa. And that has a direct carbon, net positive carbon impact by us investing and having another wind turbine built. Then that allows us to use that calculation and help offset our energy in our building.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the first person that I've heard of doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So now, I mean, it's a step away from having a wind turbine directly connected to your building and doing that thing. But what's great about it is that, where most people are located might not be the best place for a big wind turbine, and it might not be the best place. I mean, whether it's for the infrastructure or the actual wind that's being generated. So we can, when you drive out northwest Iowa now, you see all those wind turbines, and some of that is, because of what we're doing.
Cool. It's almost like a co-op sort of situation where everyone gets to support it, everyone gets the benefits from it, but at the same time, you don't have to, it's not like you don't have the turbine, you don't have to order the bulk bag, the store orders the bulk bag and you get the share, you support the turbine construction, and then you're helping to offset your carbon cost.
Well
that's
said.
Excellent. So cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, you mentioned B Corp, and that's a big certification, and that's something we've talked about on the podcast before. And you have a whole host of other certifications as well. And to me, it seems, and to I think a lot of other people that are familiar with your company too, you've been really ahead of the curve, ahead of the game as far as certifications go, in the sense that a lot of these certifications were not actually in place when the time you started your company. So you're not a big business that's been in business for 17 years and you're now backpedaling to get all of these certifications and be a PC, as it were. You did this from the beginning. And you starting in 2003, the only certifications that you have, we have 4 that you have that were already in place were the current good manufacturing practice, the CGMP. That was in 1969. So that was kind of the OG of, hey, we're doing good. We're doing good stuff, guys. We had fair trade, which was a little hard to find the date, because fair trade has not necessarily been, it is a certification, but it's been more of how you receive it or how you're marketing, how you're buying
Hmm.
your raw ingredients. Fair trade was around 1988, Leaping Bunny, the cruelty-free
Hmm.
certification in 1996, and then USD Organic in 2000.
Hmm.
Now, interesting things about your products is that you do incorporate beeswax. And beeswax, as we discussed a little bit right before we hopped on this recording, beeswax is an interesting raw ingredient to obtain and to certify due to the nature of our flying buzzy friends.
Right. It's an amazing ingredient, right? I mean, it's just this byproduct of the bees, and we still have not found a great replacement for it from the plant universe.
Sure.
And even when we can, like candelia wax, for instance, uh, or palm wax, they're too brittle and they're still not available in a certified organic uh, quality that meets the USDA NOP. Um, so we still don't have a certified organic plant wax alternative that functions well. Um, the trick with bees, and I wish we could locally source Iowa organic beeswax, um, but there is not a single place in Iowa that you can put an apiary and have bees with a 5 mile perimeter that they might fly, it not hit some farmland, some agricultural chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and that's the big trick. So hopefully, as we get more organic farming in the state of Iowa, we could also get some apiaries that follow, and that would just be great for our biodiversity in general. But it is tricky; it's a tricky ingredient.
A very tricky ingredient. Though
Hmm.
your vegan wax that you use, you mentioned Candelia wax. Is that a common wax
Hmm.
that you use for your products? Okay.
Yep.
That one, you have the NSF ANSI, which a whole bunch of
Yes.
letters, whole
Yeah.
bunch of acronyms, number
That's right.
305 organic
Yeah.
standards. So that
Right.
was one that came after the fact. That one was not an established standard
Hmm.
since 2009. Would you say that it may be because the plant based and really, I mean, cruelty free movement started a
Hmm.
long time ago, but that's really started to take off?
Yeah, and so mainly what happened was we most companies realize that you can't make super efficacious skincare products with um, with only food grade ingredients. And so
Sure.
it's really hard to find, or even especially making something shelf stable like a lotion, shampoo, conditioner. It's very, very hard to make certified organic versions of those. So the NSF ANSI standard was developed so that it's kind of like the next. It's a step down from USDA organic, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a step up from what's out there commercially. So it's like, yeah, it's still scrutinized heavily, more a natural sense and not organic.
Sure. So still maintaining the standard that everybody would want, but
Right.
understanding that not every product, not every raw ingredient has the ability to be 100% certified like bees.
Right. But 70% is way more realistic, and so
Sure.
that's where that comes in.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, because part of this too is like it's a juggling act of we want 100% organic products, but
Mm-hmm.
we want people to buy them, and they're so used, they're so used to these chemical laden products that feel a certain way and smell a certain way, and so it's just going to take a little while for people to catch on, and technology to catch up with it, with consumer um, expectation.
Sure. There's kind of a scale that I've noticed in cosmetics as well, where you have the super organic, a little crunchy, and I use that in the
Uh-huh.
best way. You have the home crafted, which I love, and I have some of my favorite products that I use are from home crafters. And then you have the big companies that have done all of this greenwashing, essentially, on the other side of the scale. So your goal is to always still be palatable, still be buyable. You have to have a business, you have to have a company, and you also have to have really good products. But at
Right.
the same time, strike that balance of being certifiable, being as excellent as you can. And as a company, you do kind of have to play that middle ground, but you've always taken it a step higher than the middle
Yeah.
ground, which I think is super commendable.
Well, yeah, but we are not perfect by any means. And so, I mean, one thing that we always think about is like we're just existing. We're going to have an impact, a negative impact on the environment. So how do we lessen that impact? And one thing that has hurts me every day is that we take these pure raw materials that we source from around the world and fairly traded, and we take such great care in them, and we bring them in and we blend them to perfection, and then and we heat it as little as possible to preserve all the integrity of the ingredients, and then we put it inside of this plastic container,
Oh.
right. Now there's some recycled content in here, but still it's like we're still going through way too many of these plastic containers that are for single use. So we're addressing that. We launched a biodegradable container 5 years ago, paper container, and it was great. I think you might have tried one.
I did.
Um,
So I remember
yeah.
seeing it, and I wonder if it was in Yoga Journal or if I picked it up at a store. I remember like a peel off paper
Hmm.
tube, and I thought that's the coolest thing because, yeah, plastic lip balm tubes and the like. I mean, you have to make sure they don't leach, and it's just kind of a necessary evil sometimes. But the
Hmm.
effort was there, but maybe a little
Right,
before your
right,
time.
right. So we just didn't sell enough of them to make that, worthwhile. Um, and consumers complained about it. They're like, "Oh, it's falling apart in my pocket," and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah,
Mm.
it's kind of the point of it. It's biodegradable. Then we launched so we discontinued that product, and then we launched a refillable lip balm called Pogo in 2016. And again, it did not get the traction that we wanted it to get, and we had to discontinue that product as well. Um, we we continue to work on it, and very soon we have a new innovation coming up that I will be able to share with you, and I can't do it today.
That's okay.
Yeah, can't wait though. It's gonna
Oh
be
man.
it's a super game changer.
Well, as soon
Yeah,
as we get the insider information that's, available to be made public, guys, go ahead and check our
yep.
socials because we will be blasting that into the interwebs for sure. That will be exciting.
That'd be
Oh,
great.
you are
Yeah,
just busting, aren't you? You want to tell me
right.
so bad. That's the hard part. Got to keep it under wraps. That's okay.
Hmm.
So you've
Yep.
definitely had some misses in
Mm.
the history of the company, like you said, with the biodegradable packaging. Which, yes, it's really nice if biodegradable packaging doesn't biodegrade before we need it
Hmm.
to. And then the Pogo, the refillable one. What have been some other challenges that you've faced throughout the life of Ecolips?
Well, it, one challenge has just been really it took me 15 years to understand that true sustainability involves profitability.
Sure.
And so it was always just in the beginning, it was like, the more we sell, the better, the more good we're doing. The more we sell, the more good we're doing. And that's true in one degree of the supply chain, and supporting organic and buying more acres of more crops, and which is then of more organic, agriculture, and then offsetting all of the chemical crops. Um, but when we
Oh
I
dear.
just totally lost my thought.
That's okay.
And I'm sorry. I started getting into farmland era, but what the biggest challenge has been cash flow, and like balancing growth with profitability, and really focusing on the bottom line, and
Okay.
realizing that is as equal uh, as equally important as the top line. So the, to be truly sustainable, you need profitability to do more good. And it's real easy as an entrepreneur to just go top line, top line. I want to get more sales, more sales, more sales. But if that's not creating a really great foundation to grow from, um, you're not doing yourself or your employees or your business justice.
Sure. We cannot pour from an empty cup, kind of, with the whole the
Right.
whole the
Yeah,
whole
that's a great.
self-care method that's going on right now too. There's all of these movements, and it's I feel like it used to be, sacrifice all for the good of the people, the planet, everything like that, but
Hmm. Hmm.
you can't. I mean, you have to live. Your company has to exist. In the episode with our beekeeper and researcher, Carol, she said, it's really difficult when people's livelihoods depend on their industry thriving. And we've
Yeah.
kind of put ourselves between a rock and a hard place. So if we've gotten ourselves into this life and these lifestyles of bigger, better, more, more,
Hmm.
more, and
Hmm.
that's been considered kind of the evil way
Right.
way of doing things. But then you have everyone, or maybe your artists and your helpers and everything like that on
Hmm.
the other end. Apparently, I like referencing scales today, but it's you do have to strike a balance, and if you're in the red, you can't be giving back, which is something that you've done a lot of recently too.
Right, right. So we always sort of looked at the product as the way that we were giving back, and now it's like, okay, the product's just one of the ways that we give back. And now that we are making, so the B Corp, it's people, planet, and profit is
Hmm.
how we look at our triple bottom line, right? And with the people, it's our employees and our community, and so employees, $15 minimum wage, even in Iowa, and above average benefits, insurance, etc. Flex time. Community means community involvement. Everything from just engaging in things like this to giving our employees volunteer hours to also giving money. We recently supported the Connect CR project, which is we're redoing Cedar Lake. We've given thousands of dollars to Trees Forever to help rebuild our canopy in Cedar Rapids since the inland hurricane, the derecho. Uh, and so we can actually take money and do good things with it. And so you got people, planet, and profit. Planet is about using our solar power. It's about the organic ingredients, about everything that we've been talking about, and profit fuels those other two things.
Excellent. And with that B Corp, so in 2007 is when B Corp was started,
Hmm.
and Ecolips starting in 2000. Was it 3 or 13?
Three. We be
2003.
well is when we were founded in
Yes,
2003.
there we go.
Yes.
That's excellent. Okay,
Hmm.
so you were founded in 2003. B Corp started in
Hmm.
2007. You were certified in B Corp in 2013. There we go.
Yeah.
I believe it was. Or your 13 score was actually lower than your
Uh-huh.
2016 score. So you've even made improvements since being
Right.
certified.
So it's kind of one of those things, and this is where I would ask people. For one, you can go onto the B Corp. You could just Google B Corp assessment, and you can take the assessment for your small business, large business. It doesn't even need to be your business. You could do it for your employer and share the results with them. Um, but we had always thought of ourselves as being a green company, as an influential leader in the green business movement. Um, and we thought that was good enough. And then once we learned the strength of the assessment, once B Corp came out, and we're like, we looked at it for a few years, we're like, that's pretty intense, man. Global leaders have created this assessment. And I'd be honest, 2000, probably before 2013, we wouldn't have passed it. You have a score of up to 200 to be a perfect sustainable company,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be at 80 or above to be a certified B Corp. And we just scored above 80. So I mean, we barely were good enough, and here we are, like, we're Ecolips, man. Of course we're good enough, and we. So it just tells you that it's not easy.
Sure.
And so every year, and I'm not sure why where we're at with our current assessment. But the idea is now we've got an infrastructure to build from, and so now it's interlaced into our company goals, and it's something that our employees are aware of. And if it can help our B score improve, it means it's going to help our company improve.
Sure.
And so that it just goes hand in hand with planning.
Most definitely. Well, in 2016, another interesting thing for the B Corporation website is you can actually go as a consumer and look up companies. Not that we need to be, comparing our companies that are trying to do good. Like you said, you're like, hey man, we're gonna do it. We're Ecolips. Oh, wait a sec. Okay, we need to check these check boxes too. We didn't think about that. But
Yeah.
you can see how other companies are doing or what they have done. And honestly, you can see how many companies are not registered as B Corps, larger companies that don't really have an excuse not to be. There's, of course, smaller and, the locally owned, the farmer's market, like you said, the products that are going to be crafted in someone's kitchen in their home. Okay, they probably don't need to go pursue that B Corp certification. But I think I was doing a little bit of research for one of the mini-sodes that came out today, alternatives for water that don't involve single-use plastic water bottles, different filters. Coca-Cola is one of the absolute worst companies out there as far as waste goes, and you better believe they are definitely not certified as a B Corp. And at this point, you would think that this giant would have the funds and the manpower to maybe make that switch.
And
but
and the duty as a corporate citizen, like, okay, it's like, the bigger they are, I think the harder it is, because it's like if you're a two-person operation and your PR agency, that would actually be pretty easy because you don't create a lot of waste.
Yes.
And that's well, you theoretically shouldn't, but as a manufacturer, it does get harder. But also, to your point, it's like, where are those? And that's the thing about B Corp is we take all shareholders into account, which is a community. It's the humans, in all places of the world. So all stakeholders rather than just the shareholders. Whereas a Coca-Cola is really just worried about shareholders, and we take all stakeholders into account.
Excellent. Yeah, that's what it means. I mean, that's the B Corp philosophy right there. And
yeah,
I think companies can hold that philosophy without holding the certification. But you have mentioned that every certification you've added on has been incredible for your business as well. It's that trust.
Right. And I think that's like that anecdotally, well, actually it's driven by data, but it's like, every time that was, it was each seal that we have gotten, each third party seal has been a lot of work. It's been a fair amount of expense. It's been a lot of coordination, a lot of, it does show some vulnerabilities in our work, and we have to work towards solving some problems to get those certifications. But every single time we added a certification, our sales went up 15% on average. And that's where I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? If you can, it's like Yvon Chouinard at Patagonia said, the more money that they give away every year, the better their business does.
Yes.
It's like, so let's just keep becoming better at, being more responsible, socially responsible, and environmentally responsible businesses. And let's continue giving to the right places, and let's continue to watch our businesses flourish.
For sure. I don't know if you have read the book Let My People Go Surfing. Have you read Yvon Chouinard's? Oh man, it's excellent. And for anyone who likes to read and is curious about any of this, or if you are a business owner and you're just kind of you're scraping your knuckles trying to get by and you have these big aspirations, go read. I believe that's the title, Let My People Go Surfing. Yep. It's so good and so interesting to see the humble beginnings of this company that was never really supposed to be a company, and how they took off. It's a super excellent read, and it's easy and enjoyable. It's not business heavy. Hands down, that's been like my book of the year.
Yeah, totally. And it's tricky too. I mean, like, he's got this, straight up struggle with this, but I mean, he's got surfboards in the lobby of their, headquarters. And when the surf's up, because you don't know when it's going to be up, or when the surf's good, employees can go out and surf. And it is really tricky to run your business like that.
Sure.
And to, like, you got to be like, so we have bikes that people can take. But still, it's not like anybody can leave. You can't leave the manufacturing floor at any time you want and go ride your bike. But there are times that you can, and but but it's inspirational to see how he viewed the growing of his business and his relationship to capitalism. And Paul Hawken is another author that has had some successful businesses and has shared this kind of ethos. And I think it's important you mentioned that book, because those are things that have fueled and made me realize that it's possible to. There's no real rules to running a business. You can create whatever business you want and however you want.
And to to the testament of Patagonia, his company too, they've been in business for so long. And he shares in that book some of the mess ups that they had. One was a initial fabric purchase that they got for their original shirts, the first apparel piece that they had. And the second year they had them, they switched fabric or they switched manufacturers or something, and they fell apart. And he thought it was going to absolutely ruin the company. But you come back even just a few years ago with your packaging. You are, I believe, if I'll check my records correctly, I think Ecolips is the longest standing company that we've had on the podcast so far. And yes, you win.
Right.
My friend Kat had the youngest podcast I think they sold their first simple syrup at market a month and a week before we recorded our episode.
Oh, wow.
And then we've got you guys with 17 years. So
yeah, and that speaks to, so this is something that I struggle to talk to young entrepreneurs about. Well, I don't struggle. They struggle to hear me because it's like Yvon Chouinard is now a billionaire, right? And he's got a company that's doing over $1 billion in sales, but he's been doing it for 50 years now, 40, whatever. Ecolips is finally of value. And so, the other thing, it's like, the faster a rainstorm comes on, the faster the rain starts, the faster it leaves. It's like the same with business. A lot of times, if you have a really great first 6 months, you are probably going to struggle. And so overnight success doesn't really exist. When you read about it, it's like, oh, they worked on it for 25 years before that happened.
Sure.
I mean, you might have the anomalies in the tech field where it's like, start a business, boom, sold it for $1 billion. But it's just not common. So setting the expectation up properly and saying, I'm going to create something that's sustainable and substantial, and I'm going to create jobs and create a legacy business that can continue on even longer than I am around. That's success.
Sure. I love how you say that too, the legacy business. And that is your legacy to the industry that you will eventually leave behind when you choose to go camping full time or you leave our earth. But that's real change too. It's not just like you said, it's we set out to change the world with a better product, and your gift to the people on the planet was a product that was better and better for the environment. And now you're giving back in even more ways and setting a better standard for other companies that are coming up behind you too.
Yeah, there you go. And I love it when we get copied by competition, big and small. I mean, whether it's, Chapstick or Blistex, or it's somebody that is much smaller than us. And I love it. It keeps us on our toes. We're like, okay, for one, we must be innovating if people are copying us. And for two, it's like, let's keep innovating in the most environmentally responsible sense, so that people have to rise up. And as we can continue to create that consumer following and that demand, then it's bliss.
Sure.
It's like, great. Yeah,
You've
it's
set
more
that
organic.
standard. You've raised the bar.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent. So, in addition, and some people might not know this unless they're maybe in the Cedar Rapids area or know you personally, Ecolips has not been your only endeavor. You also have a
No.
couple, well, I'm sure you have more than a couple. You probably have more than I know about, but creating initial or better jobs, not better jobs necessarily, but more jobs and better offerings for the Cedar Rapids area too. You have two
Hmm.
current businesses that are, I think, favorites of many that are in the
Hmm.
area, Brewhemia and Soko.
Right. So I look at those like, and thankfully, Ecolips is an anchor enough in my life and in the community and financially that I can invest in the community. And so these other, I have not received a single dollar from the three businesses that are currently that we're going to talk about. One is Brewhemia,
Mm-hmm.
and we are the most popular local, independently owned coffee shop cafe in Cedar Rapids. Super proud of it, but it is a hub, and you'll see whether it's you know we see developers in there working on plans. We see city leaders and officials meeting about upcoming changes, whatever. We see a grandma and a mom and a daughter, uh, eating lunch there too. So it's a really come together space. Um, it's in the heart of New Bohemia District, which is another area that I have been a part of for 20 some years now. And with Soko Outfitters, similarly, we're like Bohemia, there was no coffee shop that was serving the community like we believed it should. So we're like,
Sure.
let's do it. Let's make this cool and let's be a hub. Soko Outfitters, we had Cedar Rapids had no independently owned local outdoor store for camping, hiking, and just general outdoor activities. And so we're like, let's do that. Now we recently opened the Olympic, and so we're actually Soko Outfitters is a Patagonia, the only Patagonia dealer in Cedar Rapids as well. Um, and then we just recently opened up the Olympic Southside Theater, and it's a 10,000 square foot event center right above Bohemia. And again, it's one of those things where there was not an urban venue that was serving the community in downtown in the New Bohemia district. And
Sure.
so we restored an old theater, and we have had some amazing success with it, even through these strange COVID distancing times.
Excellent. I did not know about
Yeah.
the Olympic. That is so exciting
Hmm.
to me. And I have
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
to Brewhemia. I'll need to scroll back in my phone or, of course, my Instagram and find the gigantic cinnamon roll that I
Right.
had. It came with like a
A
chef's
big
knife
dang.
stabbed into it. Oh man, I got a
That's
cinnamon
right.
roll and I'm thinking I'm gonna get this tiny little roll and oh sir,
Yeah.
it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was large. But that area too, that has had a lot of up and coming businesses and I think it's important to note that urban areas like that do not thrive unless someone takes a chance and puts
Hmm.
something in there. And you have New Bow Market down there, you have the artist lofts, you have Bohemia, but it's all these small, independently owned, semi newer, maybe a little indie style businesses that have been revitalizing these areas.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful little collective down there. It's a super great area. If people haven't been there, if you're in Iowa, go check it out. It's awesome.
So Ecolips moved into this area, actually raining with our first lip balm business back in 97, 98, and because it was the cheapest rent in town. And it was
Hmm.
a part of town that most people wouldn't go to. It was a little rough, and it was factory blue collar and uh, affordable housing, and it was just like people didn't have a reason to come down here.
Sure.
Uh, we were in a building called the Cherry Building, and a guy named Rich Dana moved here from Brooklyn, New York, and was doing some work on the building. And he was like, in Brooklyn, they turn old warehouse districts like this into arts districts. And we're like, cool, let's do it. And so we put, we, but, a couple entrepreneurs, artists, random derelicts around here and like sat in a room and what should we call it? We voted on New Bohemia, and that was when it was born.
I
It was
love it.
beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
excellent. So is New
Yeah.
Bohemia, or is the neighborhood, or is that generally who you serve when you use your giving back with the entrepreneurial internship and consulting, or do you go through
Yeah.
other methods?
Yeah. So, right. So, Nubo Co. is now part of the Startup Accelerator in here. Well, Startup Accelerator is part of Nubo Co. But yeah, so the majority of the entrepreneurial work that I do is through the uh, in the New Bohemia area.
Okay.
But I do help people across the country over the phone, and I haven't charged a single penny for any of my consulting work because I just haven't felt good about doing that. So, but I love business. I love startup. I love people that are driven to create positive change specifically. And so I want to keep helping people do that.
Excellent. You are giving back through every method possible, Steve. I should tell you to know your
Trying.
worth with your consulting, but I completely understand
All right.
what you mean by, you get to be this leader and you get to see the change made, with not only yourself and your company, but the people that you talk to, people that you influence and inspire. And that, again, is that legacy that to
Hmm.
quote you earlier, the legacy that gets left behind, and that creates that real change.
Amen.
Excellent. Well, on that note, do you have any advice? I'm sure you have loads.
Mm,
Any advice
yeah.
for let's go with consumers first, and then we'll get back into
Mm.
entrepreneurs. Any advice for consumers?
I have three daughters, and so we consume way more than I would prefer to consume in our house, and I think it's just important that obviously the old cliche is like we vote with our dollars, and it is still so true that every single purchase that we make makes a difference, and but there's also no perfect there, there there's really no perfect household. There's no perfect solution. So um, just do the best you can. It's like when you can buy organic, buy fair trade, buy non-GMO, and it also gets expensive. And so when you can buy local, and hopefully, if we all just do as much of that as possible, we can create the change that we need to see.
Excellent. And that kind of ties right into probably advice that you would give to entrepreneurs too. I mean, we're all consumers. Every entrepreneur is also
Hmm.
going to be a consumer, like you said. It is the side effect of having to being a human being is we're going to
Right.
create waste and we're going to consume things. But as far as entrepreneurs in your 17 years of
Hmm.
Ecolips, what would be the biggest piece of advice you could give entrepreneurs?
Hmm. My brother, who's our chief operating officer there, said to me one time, um, he said, "Your uh, uh, your impatience is a virtue."
Sure.
So we normally think of patience as a virtue, and for me, it's like I want to drive results. I can't stand waiting another week to meet about something if we could make a decision today and be a week further. Um, I have taken a failing business, and rather than look at monthly financials, look at weekly financials, and pivoted every week to get. So I would say be impatient with yourself and um, your suppliers and your partners, if you really want to drive results. We, as a society that is full of wealth, have the ability and the ease and the privilege to be complacent. And complacent people uh, do not create as much change as rapidly at all. And
Hmm.
so be aware of when you're being complacent. I'm saying it's okay to take a break every once in a while, but understand that the harder you work and the higher expectation that you have on yourself and your team, the better results you will see.
Excellent.
I
I'm
don't
going to
know.
write that out and put it on my wall.
Right.
Sometimes I need that.
Just, yeah. I don't know. I think I'm just like, I would be mad at myself if I was not as productive as I am. And people are like, how do you do it? How do you have 4 businesses? And I know you're helping startups and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, part of it is that I work a lot
Hmm.
because I enjoy it. But the other part is that I expect results. It's like I expect results. I mean, if we're working together, we're gonna do good things together.
Hmm.
And if you're not gonna get onto my clock, which is rapidly moving, then you might not be a good fit for us.
Sure.
My wife calls it Shriver time because she's like, they don't know, like they don't know that, like, if you have a conversation with me about doing something, it might just get done in the next, like, the minute after we're done talking.
I want Shriver
So
time. Shriver time sounds like it has 32 hours in the day instead of
yeah,
24, or you just like speed it up and
yeah,
accelerate the CPU and you go.
yep, yep, yep. And you figure it out too. It's like that's also just effective leadership in delegating what you can and understanding what you should tackle and what you should, um, you know, what you should have help with. So yeah,
Sure. Excellent. Steve, those are just, yeah, beautiful, beautiful words of wisdom. Those are going on my wall. It's going to happen. Quote me on that. It'll
nice,
end up on my social media later. And the
awesome.
final question, sir, what do you eat or drink when you're not
Oh,
consuming? Usually it'd be when you're not consuming your own products, but I guess we are
right,
kind of
right.
ingesting the lip balm too. What's your
Oh
favorite?
man. Oh, I okay. So I love kombucha.
Yes.
I like trying out every new kombucha that comes out. But I think Trilogy. I can't remember the name of the brand, but that's like my go-to. Kombucha, and then uh, coconut curry, tofu, and kale um, is like my go-to. So if I see a kale curry anything, and if it's coconut
Mm.
curry anything, and especially if there's tofu, I'm on it. I'm eating that all the time, regularly.
We're having
Yeah,
tofu curry for dinner. You want to come over for dinner? Because that's what I'm
I'll be
making
there.
tonight. I'll put in kale.
All right. That is
I
so.
just told my partner I need to press the tofu. Don't let me forget to press the tofu. So that's
That is
happening.
awesome.
Well,
Sweet.
excellent. Steve, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. And again, like that's really a busy day for you to be on the podcast, to chat with me, to give everyone else a bit of insight into everything that you have to share, which is so much. And you're always sharing it and giving back. And